Okay, so I'm Edward Engel, and I'm with the Hyogo Business and Cultural Center, which is an organization that works to promote and enhance the sister state relationship between Washington State and Hyogo Prefecture, as well as our shared sister cities. Our primary three focus areas are education, culture, and business. And so the motivation behind this specific interview is to get a better insight into specific industries, in this case, wine, and how they might play a role in bettering relations between Washington State and Hyogo Prefecture. So for this interview, we were interviewing Brandon Moss of Gramercy Cellars. Brandon, can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, thanks for the introduction. Yeah, so I am actually a local Walla Walla native. Never thought I'd come back, but our valley has really grown and changed, and it's went from when I grew up to a very agricultural based town, not in wine, to a tourism central of Washington, which is really cool to see all the wineries and tourism coming here. So I grew up here, grew up on a small little farm. Went off and was actually studying pre-med, but while I was studying, really fell in love with both brewing and winemaking, and quickly realized that's really what I wanted to do with my life is create a beautiful product that people can enjoy, people can share at a dinner table. It really is an industry that gives me a lot of pride to make a product that people can really enjoy. So that love of brewing and winemaking brought me back to the Walla Walla Valley, and I started making wines here back in 2007, and started with Gramercy, and it's really been a really special ride ever since. Gramercy has now made the top 100 wines of the world from Wine and Spirits for 10 times in a row, and so it's been a really fun run, getting to represent the area that I actually grew up in.
Right. So where are you guys located in Walla Walla specifically?
So we're just a little bit off of downtown. So we're on 635 North 13th Avenue is where our tasting room's at, and it's just about 2 blocks off of the downtown area. So we kind of call our tasting room a speakeasy. We don't have a big sign out front, but it's kind of purposeful. So it's kind of this nondescript building in the middle of sort of an industrial chic part of town, which is a really fun tasting experience.
Right. So how long has your winery been making wine? So what's the history behind the cellar?
Yeah, so we started in 2005, and our beginning started with only Greg Harrington. Greg Harrington is a master sommelier, and he basically fell in love with Washington wines when he was working in New York City, and essentially decided that, okay, when I retire, I want to come to Washington and make wine. But as he kind of worked in the city and really had to live that hustle and bustle of what it is to live in New York City, he quickly realized that he would actually prefer to do it now. And so to start Gramercy, he basically sold his little 600 square foot Manhattan apartment and bought a 20-acre parcel of vineyards out here in Walla Walla. So that was kind of the start of Gramercy. And, I came on with him basically 2 years after he started. At that point in time, we were only making just over 1,000 cases. And Greg and I have since grown the brand to about 12,000 cases.
Right. So what would you say makes your winery unique compared to the other wineries in the Walla Walla area?
Our picking style is much different than a lot of people in Washington. A lot of people like to make full-blown, heavy-bodied wines that are a little riper and richer, and we've kind of gone on the other end of the spectrum. We pick the fruit quite early compared to a lot of other people. We're picking more on acid numbers. We want our wines to be very acid-driven, ageable, and very fresh. And so we're picking much more on the early side than a lot of other wineries. We also, in our Rhone varietals, which is a big part of what we do, Rhone varietals are basically Syrah, Grenache, Mourvèdre, Carignan. We do a lot of whole cluster. So we'll actually bring the grapes in, sort them, and then we'll ferment actually on the stems, which gives the wine another layer of complexity, adds a little bit of tannin structure, and really enhances the aromatics a lot too. So those are a couple different things that we do that are quite different than a lot of other wineries.
Right. So are there any specific wines that you guys specialize in?
Yeah, I would say our core for the winery is definitely Syrah.
Hmm.
That's for me, that's the grape I fell in love with first here in Washington. Our John Lewis Syrah is our reserve Syrah. That's always generally our most coveted, fastest selling, highest rated Syrah. But we have some really special vineyard designate Syrahs that represent different areas in both Walla Walla, and then we are able to source a vineyard called Red Willow in around the Yakima area that we make a vineyard designate off of. That's actually from the that Red Willow vineyard was actually the first person to plant Syrah in Washington. So we're getting some of the oldest Syrah vines that are in the state.
Oh, okay. So would you say Syrah is your favorite, like your personal favorite, or do you have like a different personal favorite within your collection?
I mean, I like to honestly. I think with wine, and if you're a winemaker, it's the very best thing you can do is to try everything you can get your hands on. That way you can really broaden your sense of taste and really see what the world of wine has to offer. But if you went into my cellar, what you would see the most of is definitely Syrah, and probably secondary to that would be Pinot Noir.
Right. Okay. So I was looking through your about page, but I noticed you guys have a very like your team has like a wide variety of like experience from like other fields aside from wine. So what would you overall feel like attributes to your success as a team?
I mean, I think you need to have a very diverse team. I think that there's things you can learn from really any job you have. There's things you can bring to the table in the wine industry, because what's really interesting about the wine industry is there's not that many industries where you go all the way from agriculture to basically a fermentation. So taking agriculture, then manipulating that agriculture, then actually bottling it, then actually having to go out and sell it. You really go through the whole spectrum of what a business can be. So I feel like for example, our tasting room manager used to be a music teacher, but I feel like her organizational skills from a classroom come across very well in our tasting room, because you're still organizing and you're basically setting up your team for success, and it's really a lot of the same things you see in a classroom. Our distribution manager used to be in hotel management. Same thing, if you can run a hotel, you can organize the distribution part of it. So I think, just having a diverse background, having a lot of different jobs, and seeing a lot of different things really helps you work in teams. And it also, I feel like there's a lot of skills in other industries that come across in the wine industry quite well.
Right, right. So does your company export internationally, maybe like Japan, and do you have plans to do so?
Yes, we do actually export to Japan. We're with Nakagawa Wine Company,
Okay.
and we've been with them for about 10 years now. So it's been a really, really great relationship. Our rep has been to Washington a couple times, and so we've been able to meet face to face. And our Greg, our co-winemaker with me, he has been over to Japan, I think, twice. So he gets to take all the fun trips. I don't get to take that one. So I get to run the winery here when he goes over there.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I just have a couple questions about Walla Walla now. So what do you think makes Walla Walla wine unique compared to like other regions within the United States?
I mean, we have a very what's one thing that's really unique about Walla Walla is because we're in a valley, and kind of surrounded by mountains on one side, a ridge line that goes across the whole state of Washington on the south side of our valley, and then basically what's called the Palouse Hills on the north side of the valley. You have a very diverse terroir here, and you can grow just about anything here because there's so many different terrains and different aspects in the valley, that it's a very broad amount of grapes you can grow here, which you don't see everywhere. The other interesting thing about Walla Walla is as you travel across the state of Washington, basically once you cross the Cascade Range there, just east of Seattle, Washington is generally kind of a high desert type of climate, that's very dry, and very much there's agriculture there, but at the same time, there's very little water.
Right.
As you get to Walla Walla, it's actually the mountains here on the east side of our valley are actually the first mountains you would hit past the Cascades, and so we get a nice little dose of rain out here. Not a lot of rain, but more than a lot of central and central East Washington. And so that allows us to water our vineyards much less. We can basically borderline dry farm. I mean, we have a vineyard that we own that we haven't turned on the water in 5 years. So, it just goes to show you that if you're close to the mountains, you basically have water that will help ripen things up. And the wines here are just very well balanced. They're very terroir driven, and they show really, really well when you compare them to other regions in the world.
Right. So what do you think the future of Walla wine is, especially given our current pandemic and just future trends? What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, we're already seeing now that people are already coming here in droves, and I feel like by the time we get to summertime, more and more people get vaccinated, and more people get comfortable with traveling again. That we're just going to see a huge uptick in travel to Walla Walla to come taste wine. I think that the region is only getting bigger and stronger. Walla Walla is a small community. And so one of the really special things is all the wineries are in for each other. And honestly, it's almost like Walla Walla is one big team out here. And so I think the growth is going to be substantial. I mean, we've already seen some new wineries get started during the pandemic. And so it's going to be really cool to see where this valley goes. The other really neat thing about Walla Walla is, our vines were only planted here the oldest vines are only about 30 years old. Really, vines don't even come into their own until at least 30 years old. And so we're going to have a lot of vineyards in the next 10 to 15 years that are going to be getting into that 20 to 30-year-old range. And the vines become much more balanced then. The fruit becomes more concentrated. And so we're only going to see better quality. And Walla Walla's already had a ton of success. So I think the future is looking really bright for the valley.
Right, that's really great. I'm a Whitman student, so if I came by in the fall,
nice.
What do you think? I don't really know much about wine, but what do you think? Do you have any recommendations for me?
I think for someone that is just getting into wine, I always think the first step of getting into wine is find a Cabernet Sauvignon you like. Cabernet Sauvignon is always fruit forward. It's always well balanced. You have a little bit of oak that kind of sweetens it up and really freshens the palate. Our 2016 or actually 2017 cab we're releasing right now is beautiful, balanced. It's really fruit forward. Syrahs tend to be a little geekier, so I always think start with a Cab or Merlot, get into that first. And then you can broaden yourself into Syrah, because Syrah is known for kind of its wild, gamey flavors. And so I always think start with something a little more fruit forward, and then move on from there.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much. This is all I really have. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Well, yeah, no problem. Appreciate it, and thanks for.